Barbados, get up.
Good morning Barbados, good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning. Good morning to you. Good morning Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning Barbados, good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
Kindly do not adjust your set. Yes, you've tuned into CBC TV8 and it is indeed Morning Barbados. It's been a while. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How do you do? Today is January the 7th, 2025. I'm Pearson Boyne. Tisha's off today and so I'm sitting with you to keep you company. We have a whole host of interesting guests as well, but I will not let the day or the morning start without saying good morning to our little ones and the teachers who are heading back to school today. I'm sure a number of you are up, bright and bushy-tailed, bags packed, your lunch packed as well, because I was one of those students who ate lunch as soon as I got to school. I'm sure you consider that as well. And you parents, prepare for the traffic on the road, but a very good morning to all of you. Good to see you again. It's been a little while. Now, coming up today, we want to take a look at those pesky millipedes. Have you seen them? Have you seen those red things crawling almost everywhere? How do we deal with those? That's the question we want to ask this morning. And what's the danger in how we handle those as well? So we'll talk to someone to share and shed some light on that. Also today, we want to meet up with the Queen Elizabeth Hospital to look at their upcoming open day, taking a look at the traditional Chinese culture. We're going to be talking about that as well, and whether or not how we compare the Eastern and the Western approaches to medicine as well. So we can't wait to talk about that as well. Now, Thursday here on CBC TV at Reprieve, we're showing for you a brand new series called Carnival Catwalk. Right away, you can imagine what's going to be happening there. Beauty in costume, excitement and energy as well. So the producers and the presenters of that are going to join us from Trinidad and Tobago, and we'll talk to them about what we can expect from Thursday when we share that with you here on TV8. We'll also share with you the writings of a Barbadian who now lives, where is it? In Netherlands, I think it is. And they'll come to us to talk about this book entitled The Children of the Ocean God. What's that about? We will delve through the pages of that to talk about that as well. We'll also be linking up with political analyst Peter Wickham. We want to hear his view on some of the regional goings on in politics, as well as a recent announcement by Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, his resignation, and what does all of that mean, plus two in the region as it relates to how the resignation, well, the pending resignation of Trinidad's Prime Minister, Mr. Keith Rowley. But we will talk too about CARICOM. That's big on a Tuesday morning. You know you look forward to this all the time because it's so important that we get into what's happening with ourselves and our neighbors as well. And so joining us this morning is Ambassador David Comashong, who is Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM. Ambassador, good morning. It's been more than a year.
I think it's incumbent on me to welcome you back to Morning Barbados.
Thank you very much. I'm just a passing through, as the song says. But it's good to see you. And there's a lot to celebrate in CARICOM. And as we would have done before, I want to hear from you if you can. Some highlights of the past year, some of the major achievements, because sometimes in a hurly-burly of life, we miss it.
Yeah. Well, I would say the word I would use to most characterize 2024 for CARICOM is resilience. Because it was a year of great challenges, of struggle, but in many instances of coming out with something positive. You know, the year 2024 began with Haiti. Yeah. Haiti was the issue that most occupied, especially the heads of government, the heads and the foreign ministers for the first, let's say, half of the year. Haiti was in real crisis, and CARICOM had put this eminent persons group together, 3 former prime ministers who were meeting with the Haitian stakeholders and were trying to get some kind of political consensus to bring them all together to get a new transitional administration in place. And it was achieved. You know, Ariel Henry resigned and they were able to bring together the various civil society and political actors. And yes, so that was an achievement. That was a big achievement. A new transitional presidential council, a new transitional prime minister, new ministers of government. And ever since then, we have been struggling through the year with the multinational security support mission, the Kenyan police officers that went in. And I would say that perhaps we are really beginning to see a serious breakthrough with that, because over the past few days, we have had personnel from Guatemala and El Salvador joining the Kenyans, because the Kenyans were seemingly struggling.
Yes, yes.
And so yes. So the first half of 2024, Haiti, the first half of 2024, the free movement regime that we were trying to bring into operation by the end of March. And I played a big role in that because I was asked to chair the Intergovernmental Task Force to kind of bring that to fruition.
Right.
And our task force, we did do our work. We worked out all of the amendments to the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas that would be required. We thought we had good consensus. Our work went before the Legal Affairs Committee. It was approved. But by the time we got to the heads of government, we found that countries started to pick at this and pick at that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't quite achieve the full freedom of movement. Right now, there are a couple little issues to be worked out, and it's in the hands of the heads of government. So a lot of work, much work was accomplished, but the end goal was not accomplished. And we're hoping that this year, 2025, will bring all of that to fulfillment. There were some very important international conferences that we held in 2024. Barbados, in our role as president of UNCTAD, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, we held the Global Supply Chain Forum right here in Barbados, and that was in May. And about a week later, Antigua hosted the fourth Small Island Developing States Conference, which was so these were two major international gatherings. And then Beryl. The
lady passed, yes.
Yes. We ended off the first half of 2024 with a visit from Beryl. Mm-hmm. Beryl hit us on the 1st of July. Mm-hmm. Decimated much of Grenada, St. Vincent, Carriacou, yes. Mm-hmm. But you know the thing about, and Barbados, of course, yes, with our fishing fleet. But the thing about Beryl is that our response to Beryl proved the importance of CARICOM, mm-hmm, because when we look at who really stepped up to help, it was basically CARICOM, yes, CARICOM countries. Guyana, for example, sending a contingent of their defense force, including engineers and construction personnel, to Carriacou to help rebuild Carriacou. Mm-hmm. Barbados, we have set up a benevolent fund for our fisher folk. Dominica making financial contributions to that fund. Cayman Islands, the African Export-Import Bank, that we did so much to bring their headquarters to Barbados. So, the response to Beryl really said to us, look, you don't really have any real friends out there in that international community. You really have to look to yourself. And we did step up as a region, and we did the best we could. Beryl also dealt us another blow in that for the first half of 2024, we have this flagship project for food security. Yes. We call it 25 by 25, right? Where we are seeking to reduce the regional food import bill by 25% by the year 2025. And we were making very good progress. In fact, we had achieved at least half of the target, and then Beryl hit. And I said Beryl hit St. Vincent and Grenada and Barbados, but it also hit Jamaica.
Yes.
And it did a lot of damage to Jamaica's agriculture. So the figures aren't in yet, but we know that Beryl did constitute a setback to the 25 by 25 project. But suffice to say that, you know, that project was really making good progress and really has proved its worth. And then I would say so those were like the highlights of the first half. The second half of the year, I would say, were characterized by our international engagements and also by the issue of crime and violence. So many international engagements, from the UN General Assembly in September to the Summit of the Future, also in September at the UN. But then there were engagements with Japan, India. There was the Commonwealth Heads of Government Conference in Samoa. There was COP29 in Azerbaijan. There was a engagement with Brazil, you know, and so there was CARICOM on the international stage, proving its worth, you know, engaging, taking its rightful place in international affairs. But through it all, right through the year, crime, increasing incidents of especially gun crime, increasing rates of homicides right across the region, and this had manifested itself the year earlier, 2023, and we had responded in 2023 with the first CARICOM symposium on crime and violence as a public health emergency, where we wanted to have a different approach to addressing this issue of crime and violence, to go beyond just police and judiciary and prison, and really look at social and psychological and cultural factors. And so we started in 2023 in Trinidad, and we made some progress, but we came back in 2024 in November with the second symposium, hosted by Barbados, intriguingly in Guyana. Held in Guyana, but hosted by Barbados. And so we continue to struggle with that, and it will be interesting to see. We made some very important decisions coming out of that second symposium, and it will be interesting to see how we implement in 2025. And by the end of this year, hopefully by the end of 2025, we will be seeing a downward trend in those crime statistics. But suffice to say, you know, it has hit the entire region, you know.
And hit hard.
And yeah.
And, you know, as we reflect also on 2024, and one of the things you mentioned was the fact that we learned that we need to rely on ourselves. What would you say are some of the other lessons learned, you know, through that particular year as well, in how we manage the affairs of CARICOM?
Well, I think the good news about CARICOM is that CARICOM has matured. CARICOM is here to stay. There's a sense of Caribbean brotherhood. There's a sense of solidarity that I think is permanent now. You know, it is back in the last half of the 1970s, early 80s, the CARICOM heads of government did not meet for 7 years.
Yeah, wow.
That is inconceivable today. And there was, back then, there were real doubts as to whether CARICOM would survive, you know. But the whole thing just collapsed, you know, especially when the multilateral clearance facility collapsed and so forth. So we have passed that. I think we have matured, we are solid now. What we have not achieved in CARICOM is that takeoff.
Right, yeah.
That, especially that economic takeoff. And I think if you listen to especially Prime Minister Mottley, you can see that that is where her mind is going. She is not just satisfied with, okay, we are stable, we are mature, we have never experienced any Brexit like the European Union. We have gone past all of that. But I think her ambition is really to see takeoff. And I know we are going to look at, know she is now the chair, she's the incoming chair, and Barbados is going to be hosting the Heads of Government Conference in February of this year. And I know we're going to be looking at the agenda for 2025, but she already sent a very strong signal when she gave an unprecedented, well, I think it's probably unprecedented, New Year's message
Yes.
as the incoming chair. And what she said was very illuminating about where she wants us to go.
And we're going to come to that. But, you know, within 2024 as well, there was a lot of talk about the ferry service. There was a lot of talk about how we move people around, you know, new flights arrangements are arranged as well. So talk to us a little bit about those projects, those objectives for CARICOM and where we are with them.
Yes, I would say that was one of the successes of 2024 in the sense that we finally got the multilateral air services agreement, the MASA. We finally got that implemented, and the importance of that is that that's an agreement between all member states where they are committing to the most supportive measures for regional air carriers, you know, aircraft and so forth, to make it the ease of doing business, the concessions to make aircraft business profitable in the Caribbean. So we got that in place, but we were facing the challenge of the collapse of LIAT. You know, we were facing these transportation challenges within the region. But the good news in 2024, we saw new airlines like Inter-Caribbean, for example, stepping up, filling some of the vacuum. We saw coming out of Antigua a new iteration of LIAT beginning to fly. We saw Caribbean Airways, Caribbean Airlines stepping up as well. So we are making progress. We also have the project of the ferry, the ferry service, the new ferry service that is supposed to link Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana, and I think to go as far as Suriname. And that is still a work in progress. I think what has kind of held it back a bit is that the vessel that the Trinidad and Tobago government had proposed to make available to get it started, there were some concerns about whether it was suitable for such distances. And I think that is still being worked through and resolved. But yes, we all recognize that this is a big challenge, and we are beginning to see progress, you know, and hopefully the ferry service will come in place. And another achievement that we should mention was that we added a new member, not full member state, but associate member state in Curacao. Yes. So we now have 6 associate member states, and I would also add, coming towards the end of the year, we were finally able to get that long desired memorandum of understanding between CARICOM and the African Union signed, so that we ended the year achieving that, and that now positions us in 2025 for moving ahead with developing relations with the African Union.
And that's where we're going to go when we come right back after this break. We'll look at 2025 and the mission of CARICOM under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Mottley. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.7 FM, the ultimate Bajan experience.
My friend, you don't plan to get her. Oh, Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
If you just joined us, welcome back to Morning Barbados. We're having our usual conversations on CARICOM with Ambassador David Commichon. And before we went to the break, we were talking a little bit about Prime Minister Mottley's assumption about moving to becoming the chairman of CARICOM. My A's are messing me up today. But before we get into talking about what the agenda is for 2025, let's take a look at what she said in her inaugural speech to CARICOM.
My beloved brothers and sisters of the Caribbean, as we step boldly into 2025, I greet you with hope, determination, and an unyielding commitment to serve as your chair of CARICOM. Today we stand at the crossroads of immense challenges and extraordinary opportunities. How we act, united as a people and as nations, will define not only this year, 2025, but the legacy of our generation. The Caribbean is far more than a geographic space. We know it. It is a living testament to the power of courage, creativity, and our collective strength. Ours is a history marked by resilience, a word that we will have to embrace more and more in our future. Time and again, we have faced storms, both natural and man-made, and risen stronger, more determined than ever, united in shaping our destiny. Especially in this year, as we saw the ravages of Hurricane Beryl make history, not just for the history books, but regrettably in the lives of too many families across our region. I extend heartfelt thanks to the outgoing chairman, the Honorable Dickon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada, for his wise and steady leadership. Together with my fellow leaders, I reaffirm our shared commitment to ensuring the prosperity, security, and well-being of every citizen in our region. A region at an important juncture is what we are. We begin 2025 against that backdrop of global uncertainty. The aftershocks of COVID-19 pandemic linger. The worsening climate crisis endangers our homes and livelihoods, as I just referred to our experience with Beryl this year. The devastating conflicts in Sudan and Ukraine and Gaza and Lebanon reverberate far beyond their borders, while in our community, the multifaceted crisis in Haiti demands urgent, thoughtful, and compassionate solutions. And we pray for the continued stability of our relations between Guyana and Venezuela. These challenges, my friends, test our resolve, but they also underscore the urgency of adaptation, resilience, and bold action. The Caribbean must not only weather these storms, but we must lead in crafting solutions for a changing world.
That's Prime Minister Mia-Amar Mottley as she speaks as a chair of CARICOM for the next 6 months and her address to CARICOM. And so we want to turn our attention now, Ambassador, to coming out of that speech, the agenda. How do you see the agenda unfolding for the next 6 months as led by Prime Minister Mottley?
You know, she ended by saying that we must weather the storms that face us, but we must also lead in crafting international solutions. And she also went on in her address to indicate that she's anxious for us to reach, as I said, take off.
Yes.
Take off momentum. And take off momentum in relation to the CARICOM single market and single economy. She, in outlaying her priorities for her chairmanship, she made it clear that the CSME, completing the building of the CSME is critical if we are to reach that stage where we can really take off and get the full benefits of integration. And she made the point that we were really, when she came on board in 2018 and assumed the position of the lead the head with lead responsibility for CSME. We really started a pace, you know. She committed to 4 subcommittee meetings on the Prime Ministerial subcommittee meetings on the CSME every year, every quarter. But then COVID came, and she made the point that we then had to turn our attention to COVID, and we lost a lot of the momentum, but that now we must get back to it. We must achieve all that we need to do to secure the free movement of capital, free movement of businesses and capital and financial services, but also of people, that free movement regime. She also went back to the work of the CARICOM Commission on the Economy, the commission that had been set up under her lead, chaired by Professor Avinash Prasad, and the recommendations made by that commission of some of the things that we could put in place to really secure this idea of the single market, the single space. For example, the commission had a very powerful idea that, look, why don't we set up a regional body that could certify common standards and common certifications, so that professionals, once you're registered in one CARICOM country, it applies right across the board. Financial services companies, you certify them. Once they're registered, they can operate right across the board. Practical things like that. So I think that is going to be a big part of Prime Minister Mottley's agenda, the CSME. And also within the CSME, I think she has a real commitment to that 25 by 25 project, that food security project. In fact, she was the one who really pushed it and got it set up. And then she talked about that we also have to lead internationally. What does she mean by that? Well, I think she's referring to how we have been responding to the built-in injustices and inequities of the international financial and economic order. And we have been leading that response. Our Bridgetown initiative. We have been challenging it. We have been responding to the unjust blacklisting practices that we have suffered from. We have been on the climate justice, the demands for climate justice. So I think she is calling us to redouble those efforts. The multi-dimensional vulnerability in all of the work that we have been doing, from COPS, the Bridgetown Initiative, to climate justice. She's asking us to redouble that effort, and so that we are not victims. We don't just play the role of victims. That we in fact craft solutions and advance international advocacy campaigns for those solutions.
And those are parts of the agenda for the Prime Minister as the incoming head of CARICOM. And with the CARICOM heads meeting in mid-February in Barbados, we will hear then a lot more of the consensus coming out of that meeting. Ambassador Commissioner, we have to leave it there. There's a lot more we can talk about, isn't there, on CARICOM? But thank you, as always, for coming through to share with us in our conversations on CARICOM. My pleasure, Pearson. We look forward to 2025 being a year of very, very solid achievement for CARICOM. And we look forward to Barbados playing its role as chair of CARICOM in the first half of 2025. Looking forward to that indeed, and a whole lot more. Stay with us. We're back in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
My friend, you don't plan to get it. Oh, Barbados. Hey, I'm KB Clean. Join me 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. right here at 94.7, the best and ultimate Bajan experience. My show is called Bajan to the Bone. Don't miss it. Bajan to the Bone. Weekdays right here and only here on 94.7.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. You know, it's a different feeling altogether.
I never feel so good in a party yet.
Follow me to Q in the Community this Thursday.
So good in a party yet. You know why?
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well,
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Now, Dr. Kirk Douglas is the Director for the Center of Biosecurity at the UWI Cayfield campus. And he's joining us now because we want to look at that pesty millipede that you see just outside of your door, and for some of you crawling into your house as well. Where did they come from and how do we deal with them? That's what we're going to talk about now. So, Dr. Douglas, a very good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Pearson, and good morning, Barbadians.
Thank you for joining us. Back at you, my brother. Now, talk to us a little bit about these millipedes. Where have they come from?
I think that's a really, really good question. One I think many Barbadians are asking at the moment, but I don't think we have any conclusive evidence as to where or what was the source, but we can make educated guesses as to what the potential entry points could have been. And when you speak of biosecurity, you think of where the vulnerabilities within the national system, where these types of animals can come into a country. We call them invasive alien species, or IAS. Now, there's trade. Trade is a major movement of goods coming in and going out of the country, and this is often one of the primary routes for the introduction of invasive alien species. Now, we have the horticultural trade. Given the small size of the eggs of the millipede, and also sometimes the very small forms of the millipede when they're very young, it is easy for them to come through the ports of entry in soil, in stone, even through construction, not only plant and horticulture, but also through construction as well. And also these animals are also utilized in the pet trade. As interesting as it seems, some people actually keep terrariums, which is just like an aquarium, but minus the water, just having soil or maybe gravel, and they would actually keep these as pets. Very strange to us, but it is a real thing in other parts of the world. Now, that brings us to the pet and aquaria trade, which is also another form or another route in which the invasive alien species could have be introduced into Barbados. And that is something that we've been working on with the CABI, which stands for the Center for Agriculture and Bioscience International, and also ICA, which is the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, or IICA. And these two entities, along with CARICOM and I believe also the USDA, worked on a program to try to see how the Caribbean countries, particularly about, I think, 6 CS countries, on how they can strengthen biosecurity measures to reduce the risk of pests and invasive alien species coming into the country. And what came out of that, that culminated in a workshop in St. Kitts in 2024, I believe. And what occurred there is that we consolidated all the information, and this also included horticultural trade, because we want to arm and to strengthen the capacity within the region to be able to prevent invasive alien species. Now, millipedes are one of them, but there are several others that we also have to be careful.
And so we see them and we think, let's get rid of them. But are there any benefits to having them around?
Well, I mean, every animal has a role within the ecosystem, as we say. The role of the millipede is a detrivore. Detrivore means it eats dead things. And in the case of millipedes, it's important in eating dead leaves, dead organic matter. So it plays a role within the ecosystem in that. But what you can find, especially with invasive alien species, is that they become part of your ecosystem, but they become skewed in terms of they reproduce really quickly, something called fecundity. That is the measure of how reproductive a particular animal is, and they're very fecund. And so they produce rapidly, and you can see that even the Christmas worm that we're accustomed seeing in Barbados hasn't really made an entrance this year, and this may be due to the competition that this red millipede is posing, not only for the Christmas worm but also to the other millipede that we are more accustomed seeing, the one with the green and black stripes. We don't see that as prevalent, and so what happens is it competes the other detrivores like the Christmas worm and like the original or the one that we're more accustomed to, and then it proliferates, and then it becomes a problem because it gets it moves from not only in the garden, but it moves and transitions into your own home, and so then now it becomes personal because people don't want them in their living rooms, in their kitchens, all over. So then we have to find ways and means and how we're going to control it. But the best way to control it is to prevent its entry into the country in the first place. At this point in time, it's a bit too late. But thankfully, this isn't necessarily a major agricultural pest, and so it isn't a major threat to food security, which we are thankful for. But we still have to shore up the borders so that we don't have the entry of future invasive alien species. Right now, we have the Cuban tree frog, which was actually introduced into Dominica, funny enough, during the delivery of aid after Hurricane Maria. And so we have boats that were coming in delivering aid, but inadvertently, what they also introduced into Dominica, especially during the aftermath of the hurricane, biosecurity systems are become more lax, and therefore as the boats came in with the shipments, also came along the Cuban tree frog, and it's actually now damaging the apiculture or the bee industries in different countries. So especially in Jamaica, I saw one report from a colleague there in Jamaica, which is very strange, but this is what happens because these organisms aren't accustomed to being in our ecosystem. So then you start to see strange things occurring. And that's why, too, I must applaud the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Nutritional Security for an initiative that they have a moment where you can actually take a photo if you see something strange and WhatsApp it to a particular number that they've provided. They have a poster that they've been circulating on social media and also in the print media as well. And I strongly encourage Barbadians to get on board and to participate in it, because there's no way any ministry anywhere in the world can do this by themselves. It takes a collective effort. So that's what I would appeal to Barbadians to do. And not only the millipede, but anything that you see that is strange, yes, please document it and report it.
Our natural response often is to go to the seeds, in pesticides, the insecticides as our solution. Is there a natural solution to managing these millipedes?
Good question. The most effective, I would say, if you want to have a quick fix, would be the pesticides. I think what we would have to work on is seeing how we can now design traps that would be I guess, using less chemical means of getting rid of pests and trying to see how you can find a more natural way in doing it. At the moment, I don't know of any particular trap for millipedes. I know the various pest control companies, they would have their list of effective pesticides and insecticides that they would utilize. And also, if you go to the hardware store, they would also recommend, and I saw in the news reports that they're checking their supply levels because obviously they're inundated with requests for it. What we will try to investigate as a research entity with the University of the West Indies is something similar to what we did for mosquitoes, and see if we can design traps that would be effective, because you have to find a way of luring the mosquito, or in this case the millipede, to the trap, and then find an effective way of killing the millipede to get rid of them. So that's what we will attempt to do. I'll see what the literature has, and then also if we can do some research and experimentation to see where we can go.
Where you sit as the director for the Center of Biosecurity, what do you see to be the prognosis if we do not manage this invasion adequately?
I mean, it will continue and it will persist because of the high fecundity of the millipede. It will continue to breed. We have lots of overgrown lots. It's almost a perfect storm, if you will. If we do have a dry spell, you will see the occurrence of them reduce. But once we get wet weather again, you'll start to see them come out again. And that's the problem, right? Because these animals are very resilient. They're designed to thrive, and they're designed to survive and thrive. But what I would like to see, honestly, is for the focus on biodiversity, which is very important, particularly for small and developing states and the fragile ecosystems that we have, that also are a major draw and pull in terms of ecotourism for the Caribbean countries, is if we can actually have, because there's no CARICOM entity that is specifically targeting the protection, the conservation of biodiversity in the Caribbean. We have CARFA, which is for the Public Health Agency. We have CARICOM Impacts, which is for national or regional security. But we lack that, I would say, CARICOM infrastructure where we can have that total dedication, that total focus on biodiversity. And I would even dare say biosecurity, which even expands greater, encompassing more than just biodiversity, because it is really the intersection of trade, the intersection of tourism. And when you speak of sustainable development, this is really at the core of it, because all the strides that you make in terms of economic development can really be eroded severely, and especially against the backdrop of climate change. The role of invasive species is tremendous. You only have to look at the giant African snail and several other invasive species that have been introduced from let's say 30 years ago till now. It is a continuing trend, and one that we can do better in if we want to sustain the development that we need.
All right, Dr. Kurt Douglas, we have to leave it there. Clearly, another conversation has to ensue, but we thank you so much for sharing from you. You sit as the expert on this biosecurity to help us manage this invasive red millipede. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, thank you too. Take care. Have a great day.
Likewise. Morning Barbados continues in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.7 FM, the ultimate Bajan experience.
My friend, you don't plan to get it? Oh, Barbados. Hey, I'm KB Clean. Join me 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. right here at 94.7, the best and ultimate Bajan experience. My show is called Bajan to the Bone. Don't miss it, Bajan to the Bone. Weekdays right here and only here on 94.7.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. You know, it's a different feeling altogether.
I never feel so good in a party. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're 12 minutes away from 7 o'clock. As you would have recognized by now, there's a lot of good things happening at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and we are fortunate to have had a very good relationship with the communications specialist who keeps us informed so we can keep you informed as well. Mr. Shane Seeley is on set with us. Shane, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Pearson. How are you doing?
I do well. How do you do?
I'm good. I'm good.
It's been a little while working across from you in this capacity.
In this capacity. I don't think this dynamic has ever happened. It's strange, but welcome for sure.
Well, that's your fault. You never invited me when you were hosting Morning Barbados. But here we are.
That is true.
Here we are. And I started deliberately by saying there's great work happening at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital because we've seen all of the action that's been going on there. So talk to us a little bit because we do want to welcome also Dr. Au. Dr. Au, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you. Welcome to Barbados.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Explain for me, Shane, what's happening with Dr. Au and her team of Chinese medicals?
Well, we are very fortunate to have a wonderful relationship with China. Of course, the Chinese government has been sending their medical experts here to Barbados for more than 7 years. But Dr. Au Meng, she's a part of the 7th Chinese medical team. So their team of experts is here in Barbados helping to enhance the services we offer at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. But the relationship goes further. You would know from time to time you would see various Chinese festivals, especially during January. So Dr. Meng, she's the captain of Dr. Au. She's the captain of the Chinese medical team. So her team will be leading what are the 4 traditional Chinese arts, an exhibition that we're hosting tomorrow at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. All of those exhibitions we generally host on the ground floor. So as people come into the hospital on that ground floor and make the left after they come through the main entrance, they will see that corridor come to life with various Chinese arts. About 5 tables with various elements of Chinese culture. And we're so thankful that we have Dr. Au and her team outside of the great work that they're doing, just showcasing what Chinese culture is all about.
Dr. Au, talk to me a little bit about what it means to be in Barbados, to share your culture with Barbadians.
Firstly, as the captain of the China medical team coming to Barbados, I feel greatly honored and have a great sense of responsibility. We are the 7th China medical team to Barbados, and we specialize in various fields including ultrasonic medicine, nuclear medicine, vascular surgery, cardiology, neurography, traditional Chinese medicine, neonatal nursing, and other fields. We have felt enthusiasm and friendliness of people in Barbados. And we know that we have not only brought medical skills, but also gained precious friendship. And we are determined to promote friendly exchanges between the two countries.
So tomorrow at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, you're showcasing the 4 traditional Chinese arts. What are they?
Regarding the upcoming Chinese Culture Open Day, we know the last team, the 6th team, China medical team, hold the Chinese Culture Open Day last year. I think it is a bridge aiming to promote integration of the cultures of two countries and enhance mutual understanding and appreciation. So we decided to continue to carry on the tradition. And fortunately, at the end of this month is Chinese Spring Festival, also called the Chinese New Year. So this month and next month, we will hold 3 fascinating exhibitions, and will present rich and colorful contents. And the first will be held tomorrow. So the theme is the 4 Chinese traditional Chinese arts. It includes qin, chess, calligraphy, and Chinese painting. So we will show the traditional Chinese music, such as the guzheng, allowing everyone to appreciate the charm, the artistic charm of Chinese art. And the exhibitions of calligraphy and Chinese painting will show the conception of the East in brush and ink. And there will be also show the paper cutting. Paper cutting, allowing everyone to experience the displays. They will show the display and interaction of the Chinese, the traditional Chinese skills in person.
And that's going to be fantastic, Shane, I think, because as you know, our technical director is versed in calligraphy. And so it's an opportunity for anyone who wants to practice that skill, to get to know more about that skill, to be tomorrow at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. What time? And again, you told me it's on the ground floor?
Yes, on the ground floor. As you make your way through the main entrance, you make the left and you come to what we call that T-junction, which would lead you either to the Center for Oncology and Nuclear Medicine, or you keep straight to the accounts department. But you'll see it all there. All of the displays will be on show. It's a good time to see what many would have only seen on television firsthand. She spoke about the calligraphy. There is also going to be a traditional Chinese piano.
Traditional guzheng.
Exactly. So it's a lot of that Chinese culture, and it's also a chance for the average Barbadian to interact with our Chinese medical team, to hear a bit more about what they do. I know a lot of people, it will not be there tomorrow. It was at our last open day when we celebrated the launch of our 60th anniversary year of activities, where we had acupuncture. And they've been very phenomenal. She spoke about traditional Chinese medicine. A lot of Barbadians are coming to the hospital now asking about traditional Chinese medicine, how these treatments work, and if they can be a part of receiving that treatment for their ailments. So these are things that you'll be able to discuss with our Chinese medical team, but to see their culture firsthand, it's a wonderful opportunity.
And so tomorrow, Dr. Au, how many of your team will be there to respond to questions and to engage with the public as they come?
You mean we have, so tomorrow, the open day, we will cooperate with the Confucius Institute. Yeah,
and that's at the University, the Confucius Institute.
Yeah.
Because I think as we begin to expose people to the different cultures as well, we want to not just be able to see what you do, but to speak the language, to understand the language, to really
that part
immerse.
is the hard part.
I know.
We will describe the mailing.
But to be able to immerse yourself in the culture of China, so we have a greater appreciation when we see what you talk about, for what it is, really, and how it applies to our understanding as well. And I'm glad you went, Shane, to talking about the traditional Chinese medicine, because oftentimes we don't have enough understanding of the medicine from the East. We know what happens in the West and the responses medically, but to be able to see the different ways that we can treat illnesses coming from another region of the world, I think is going to be important.
Of course, and the response is what is even more important, has been great. I always encourage people, if they have any questions, and we can always make those connections, to call our patient advice and liaison service at 536-4800, because people will still come with medical complaints. It is the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. So we want people to still feed into that channel. But this is a first-hand opportunity like no other, because you'll get to interface with Dr. Au. We have another of our Chinese medical specialists here in studio as well, a number of them. And they've been having a wonderful time, according to Dr. Au, here in Barbados, just taking in the sights, the sounds, the Barbadian culture. So they're getting that first-hand opportunity to walk the land and see what we have to offer. They've been taking their pictures.
We're seeing them on the screen as well. The responses to beautiful Barbados.
Beautiful Barbados.
And we truly welcome them to Barbados to be a part of who we are and to bring who you are to us as well. So we can understand what you do, how you do what you do, and how we can benefit from what you do. But I did ask you, Shane, what time? Because, the hospital is almost a 24-hour operation.
9:30 to 12:30.
Oh, just 3 hours?
Just 3 hours, but we know that sometimes we can extend depending on the public demand.
Right.
So as people come in, we'll gauge and see what's going on. That time is normally a busy time at the hospital. The clinics normally open around 8 o'clock. People make their way into the hospital. So as they come in, we'll see what happens, and I know that the medical team, they're very willing to spend a bit more time if needed to cater to the needs of the public as they pass through the hospital.
9:30 to 12:30 tomorrow. What we did tomorrow is Wednesday.
I know we were messed up by how the new year started.
Yeah, you're so confused. But at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, an opportunity for you to meet the team from China, who are there showing you 4 traditional Chinese arts, also talking to you a little bit more about the kinds of medical interventions that they can offer through the Chinese culture that are different from what we experience generally in the West. But it's going to be quite a day. Plus that piano.
Yep.
Look at it right there on your screen. Look at the piano. Look at the piano.
We'll show tomorrow.
That will be on show tomorrow. So come find out how they make music, they make merry using different instruments from what we're accustomed, but sounding just as magical indeed. It's going to be fantastic. And based on my experience with the hospital, I must say I don't want people to be afraid of the hospital. I've learned that now. It's just another place that you can go to interact with regular human beings. Other people there are sick, yes, but it's nothing scary at all. So don't think anything about being at the hospital tomorrow between 9:30 and 12:30 to engage and experience this art coming in from China. Thank you so much, Shane.
Thank you,
and thank you so much, Dr. Au.
Thank you.
Welcome again to you and your team to Barbados. We hope that your time with us is absolutely meaningful. We're happy to have you. You're welcome.
We appreciate you, Pearson, and helping us at the hospital, continuing our outreach to the public. That is critical here on Mornin Barbados and through radio as well on Q100.7 FM, and that will continue very soon, very soon. You'll get back on the airwaves very soon with the Pulse Radio Show, the 3rd season.
Looking forward to that. Mornin Barbados continues right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you indeed. 2 minutes after 7 o'clock, let's update you on the news. Right now, I can tell you that by the end of this month, patrons visiting the Grantley Adams International Airport will once again be paying for parking. Confirmation of this from the airport's Chief Executive Officer, Hadley Bourne. Additionally, he says periodically, the parking arm will be engaged for testing.
While the initial plan was to have the system fully operational by the end of 2024, we decided to make a small adjustment to our timeline to allow for more in-depth staff training. We assure you that there have been no issues with the new equipment, and the adjustment to the operation start date was to account for the human element. It is critical for us to ensure that everything runs smoothly for our users. Our priority is to provide a seamless and comfortable experience when using the car park. So, we took the time to get that right. The great news is that we'll be resuming regular operations later this month.
As we were talking just a moment ago about the millipede infestation, we can tell you that it's plaguing many homes and other properties, and it has driven Barbadians in droves to hardware stores and others in search of pesticide solutions to the problem. And if the surge in sales continues, there may be a shortage of the recommended products to keep the millipedes at bay. Trevor Thorpe reports.
Barbadians are waging an all-out war on the invasive red millipedes now prevalent on the island. All across Barbados, the response has been the same. People looking for pesticides to deal with these creepy crawlies. And the increase in sales has created an unprecedented demand for the products recommended to control the pests, which could result in shortages. Assistant Store Manager at Carter's General Stores in Wildy, Chad Hadley, has been speaking with CBC News about their experience.
We're down in our pesticide, herbicide department with regards to these red millipedes, red Christmas worms, what people are calling for it. We have noticed an increase in volume and sales for the particular product, especially Propoxur and our 7 powders, which are working very well to kill these red millipedes.
And the assistant store manager said the high demand keeps them restocking.
We just got in some here to fill back up the shelf. The sales clerk, Tiffany, is busy packing it away and been helping customers daily, hourly with the questions that they've been having.
And the findings were the same in the east of the island, as store manager at Ace H&B Hardware in 6 Roads, Algernon Roach, explained.
In terms of specific requests, there was a lot of requests for things like Demon and Bison and those kind of products. There was a lot of demand for those. But Terminex and those kind of things, for spraying around the houses and so on, those are a few of the items that customers would have been asking for in recent times, more so than before.
The retailers tell CBC News they are keeping a keen eye on supplies in light of the heavy demand for pesticides. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
Thanks, Trevor. Well, a workers' union says there's an urgent need for companies to prioritize employee safety. That call from General Secretary of the Barbados Workers' Union, Tony Moore. She says, speaking following reports of a shooting incident which left a KFC worker and the driver tasked with shuttling workers home injured.
During the past 12 months, we have written to KFC no fewer than 7 times urging them to implement a safe and reliable commute system after work when public transport is no longer available. These appeals have been ignored, and now we are seeing the devastating consequences. It is unacceptable in the first place that suitable transportation is not made available to avoid workers having to wait for hours after their shift has ended for delivery drivers to complete their routes, leaving workers vulnerable at a precarious hour. This not only puts them at risk, but also reduces their time to rest and to be with their families. I know that some may be thinking that they don't have to wait, but the alternative when public transport is not available often is paid private transport, which often exceeds the earnings for the last shift worked by too many KFC employees.
A bit of sports now. The Delilah Bradshaw St. Michael Southeast football tournament is back. CBC's Anne-Marie Burke tells us more.
With 9 teams registered and the action kicking off with a doubleheader at the Parkinson Resource Centre and playing field over the weekend, the Delilah Bradshaw Inter-Community Football Tournament is in full swing after being in the pipeline for the past 3 years. And while the focus will be on the field of play, Member of Parliament for the area, Honourable Santia Bradshaw, says its real mandate is to be a vehicle to create a sense of unity in that community. And naming the tournament after her father, former Minister and MP for the area, Delilah Bradshaw, is fitting, as in his tenure, he sought to use sport as a vehicle to bring the community together.
I believe this tournament, the Delilah Bradshaw tournament, will bring together the Pine yet again and the whole of St. Michael's Southeast. And we're doing it tonight and this entire tournament in Dad's name because he has been the patron of football. He's been the patron of all of the sports across the community of St. Michael's Southeast. I have only had the baton passed on to me and been able to represent not only the Youth Soccer Academy but also the Pineland, the academics team rather, as well, where we were able to bring home the 100 grand a few years ago. 2011, thank you, Brim. And we were able to bring success to this constituency because of all of you. The Pine and the entire St. Michael Southeast operated as a unit. And as Heavy says, that is what this is really about tonight, being able to bring this community back together.
To see the tournament named in his honour is heartening for Mr. Bradshaw, who would like to see it replicated in other communities.
I am particularly heartened this evening to see such a gathering. Peaceful, everybody enjoying themselves, and that is one of the other reasons, because in recent times there have been this talk about violence, and I believe as an elder statesman that I could do something to assist the country. I have always lived with the community, and I feel that I, as a senior person, should go back to the community and remind them of what used to happen, the integration, the love and the affection and the community spirit. And I'm happy to see this, and I hope that this could be duplicated across Barbados.
A joint effort of the Pinelands Football Club, Pinelands Youth Soccer Academy and the Make a Difference Foundation. Up for grabs for the winning team will be a cash prize of $5,000, with second and third place receiving $2,500 and $1,000 respectively. Anne-Marie Burke, CBC Sports.
All right, that's a look at our news this morning. We're coming back with more news at 12 noon on the CBC News Day. Morning Barbados continues with you in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. You know, it's a different feeling altogether.
I never feel so good in a party yet.
Follow me to Q in the Community this Thursday.
You know why?
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
11 minutes after 7 o'clock, we moved our segment we call The Next Chapter. Where does it take us and through whose pages do we delve? At the moment, we're happy to be joined this morning by a man who's visiting from the Netherlands, but he's a Barbadian. His name is Mr. Kieran Delimore. Kieran, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, Barbados.
How does it feel to be on Barbadian soil? You were born here.
Yes, I was born and raised here until the age of 18, and then I left to the US, and then I'm now living in Europe. Now I've been living 13 years in the Netherlands, so it's been a while.
But your beginning is quite storied itself. Born to a Trinidadian mother,
yes,
Vincentian father, in Barbados.
Correct.
So explain to me, what does that mean in terms of all of those cultures in a melting pot to raise Kieran?
I think I'm a CARICOM baby, as you might say, and I think that's part of the vision of what CARICOM is all about. So my parents both came here as immigrants, and we were raised here. So I was raised here with my brothers, and I grew up in this country. So I am Barbadian, and I feel Barbadian, and but I do have these sort of aspects of me which are a bit Trinidadian, a bit St. Vincentian. So I just feel like I feel comfortable all over the Caribbean.
I know you're in the Netherlands. I mean, that's a completely different space of the world when compared with the Caribbean.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's weather-wise, it's very different. Food and culture-wise, I think it's a very different culture. Much less warm people. Like, I miss the warmth of Caribbean people and the daily friendliness. They are friendly in the Netherlands, of course, but it's not the same as us in the Caribbean.
Do you miss the sea?
Yes, of course, and beaches, and
Yes.
I miss a lot of things. The sun, the warmth,
right.
You know.
Because you've written a book called The Children of the Ocean God. That suggests to me that you either had a wonderful imagination or you've had a wonderful experience in the ocean itself around the Caribbean. Which one is it?
It's more the latter, about the ocean. Actually, the title of the book comes from a poem. It comes from a poem written by a Vincentian author a very long time ago, and he wrote an epic poem, and it's one of the lines in the book is about children of the ocean god, who are the Black Caribs in St. Vincent.
So let's talk a little bit about that history, because it must have taken you a little bit of time to research more, because it's all well and good to see poem and prose, but you had to authenticate it. Did you take time to do so?
Yes, definitely. I wrote this book during COVID, so there was a lot of time, and actually you had to be resourceful, so looking at everything online. I even watched drone footage of St. Vincent. I did everything I could to kind of immerse myself when I couldn't travel. And I did a lot of research in the historical records, etc.
So what did you find? What did you learn? Not just about the culture of the Black Caribs, but also about you.
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. About the Black Caribs, I learned so many fascinating things, actually, that I said to myself, why was I not taught this when I was in high school? You know? But about myself, I think my father's Vincentian, and he's always told me that we are part Black Carib. So it was more like a discovery, a journey of discovery about my ancestors, at least part of my ancestors. And I found that was a fascinating journey that I took.
So you've taken that fascinating journey based upon a line in a poem, and you've compiled a book.
Yes.
So as you turn the pages of the book, as people take it up and read it, what do they now find out for themselves?
Yeah, so actually the book is historical fiction, so it is based on the historical record. So it is all the historical events that happened really did happen. However, it is fiction, so that the conversations between the characters are different. Some of the characters are sort of made up because of artistic license, but the main characters are historical figures. So I think they learn a bit of Caribbean history that they probably never learned in high school, probably. And it should be an engaging and entertaining story, which at the same time is teaching you a bit of history.
So who are some of the characters then, whether real or fictional, in the book that we can learn about?
Yeah, so you may have heard of one of the national heroes of St. Vincent, Paramount Chief Joseph Chatoyer.
Yes.
So he's one of the main characters in the book. At the same time, there's also the administrator of the British government at the time, the colonial administrator, the governor, Governor Seaton. He is one of the characters in the book. And there are several other characters that are maybe less, a bit more minor, but also telling the story. So I have one of the lead characters is just a Garifuna or Carib, black Carib warrior. His name is Waramu. And he is telling the story, but he's not a main historical figure. But I use him as a character who goes through the thread of the story, kind of linking everything together.
May I borrow just a moment? Because
yes, you may.
For me, when I read a book, and I take a book up, I don't just look at the cover. I mean, it's really beautiful. Children of the Ocean God. The year was 1795. I tend to go first to the first set of words. And if the first set of words grab me, then the book grabs me. And I know you start with a chronology, which puts into context everything else. And your author introduction, let's get to part one, Perfidious Albion.
Yes.
Perfidious, oh, I like this. Waramu was struggling again with the restless spirits of the night. As he tried to fall asleep, he could not get the ominous prophecy of the boys out of his head. And you go on from there. And right away, you draw me into the story. And so I want people to understand that it's not, while it's a chronicle of history and a bit of fiction, it is also beautifully written in such a way that you don't want to put it down.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that as an author.
Yes,
that you feel that way, yes.
So where can people get copies of the book?
So this is an interesting thing. So in Barbados, I actually have just arranged with a bookshop. Actually, it's in Hayman's Market in St. Peter. It's called Nubian Air Club Bookstore. They have several copies. If you wanted, physical copies. Also, it's very easily accessible online. Many Barbadians shop nowadays on Amazon. So on Amazon.com, you can get it. It's also in the UK. If there are any Barbadians in the UK, it's in Canada. All the Amazon sort of national websites, you can buy it there.
It says here that you are a scientist, you're an inventor, and you're also a writer.
Yes.
You know, one is very specific. You deal with facts and figures and information. A has to equal B, so to speak. And then as a writer, you have license to take your mind anywhere you want to go. Do they compete for you? The disciplines, do they compete or do they all intersect beautifully?
I think it's the latter. They intersect really beautifully. I have a very scientific mind. So I'm an aerospace engineer by training. And so it makes me very, very analytical. I like to delve into the details and into facts, but at the same time, I like the freedom of writing to express myself and to use my imagination. And I can use that analytical mind and create an interesting, fascinating story.
I'm so dying to go to the end to see how it all ends. In the way that you've written and compiled the book, is it a story that has an ending or does it continue to be continued?
It's a bit of an open ending. As an author, you always want to leave a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Yes.
I think there's opportunities to write, for example, a sequel or a prequel. So I'm also thinking about a prequel to this book. And also I'm interested in writing a new book. So I'm working on a book on Dominica right now.
Why Dominica?
There's so many fascinating stories that are in the Caribbean region. We have a very rich history, and there's a very interesting story about a half Kalinago or half Carib lieutenant governor of Dominica way back in 1680. So it's the first time you had a sort of indigenous person who was actually part of the administration, the British administration. But he was unfortunately murdered by his brother, his half-brother. So it's a kind of Cain and Abel story.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very fascinating story.
But you seem so passionate about documenting the history of the indigenous peoples. So why?
I think they have been, it's a really good question. I think, I don't think we've paid enough attention to our indigenous past and the actual foundation of our culture and where we come from. I think the indigenous inhabitants of the Caribbean, they also need some attention and they should be highlighted. So that is part of my mission, is to raise awareness about their story. And it's our story too.
I think writing is going to overcome every other passion that you have already, because you already seem so clear in your mind as to where you want to go with your writing. I just wonder where with your science, really, how does that really compete? I know you've answered the question where that's concerned already, but I'm watching you and I'm thinking, this man loves what he does. And this man is so passionate about telling the story that he at some point has to decide, you know what, I think I need to dedicate a lot more time to telling the story than to solving another problem for someone else in the world.
You're very true. I think in the long run, I would like to become more full-time in writing. Right now, I'm writing part-time, so I work full-time, a full-time 9-to-5 job, just like everybody else. But then in my free time, I spend a lot of time writing, and I enjoy it very much. It is a passion.
Yeah.
It's something that I get a lot of energy from.
And it's so important for people to live their passion. I'm glad that you went there, because oftentimes we drift through life not fulfilling that passion, and so we're disappointed at the end of it all of our days. But you're a man who's able to say, you know what, in my youth, because you're still a relatively young man, I've been able to live my passion, to be able to take my passion, compile it into a book for others to read. And so the book is called Children of the Ocean God. The Ocean God, what's the name of the ocean god?
Well, it's you can say it's like Neptune. You know Neptune on our trident, but they would have had a Kalinago version of the ocean god. Yes.
And we learn about that in the book.
We'll learn a bit about that.
And that's the whole point. It's a history book, but it's also a wonderful read as well. And it's available on Amazon. It's available locally as well. If you go to the north of the island to that establishment, I shan't call the name, or I'll have to charge you. But you know, it's a really good one. It's available. It's also a good read for children or young students who are studying history in the secondary level as well, so that you get a little bit more understanding of our history and what it is when you read about other people, how it relates to us in the Caribbean as well. And it's written by Kieran Delimore, and he's a Barbadian who's living in the Netherlands, born to a Vincentian mother, Trinidad.
It's the other way around.
The other way around. Trinidadian father.
Trinidadian mother and Vincentian father, yes.
Got it right.
Yes.
But he's a mixed up man. But he's a good guy. Thank you so much, Kieran. I commend the book to all of you. Thank you so much. Morning Barbados in a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.7 FM, the ultimate Bajan experience.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
This is Carnival Catwalk, where fashion meets carnival.
This was like a cacophony of color.
Look at people by the drunk, look at people by the drunk.
We have searched far and wide for 10 of the most fearless, creative fashion designers in the world.
And they're all here for one common goal, and that is to snatch the grand prize of $100,000 and to prove that they are the ultimate fashion maestro.
Wow! That's a project run well love now, you know.
Can you imagine this is the first time we've seen her sew for the day?
I love this projecting into the future.
The whole time I thought he is coming back to Carnival for sure.
And you are about to witness a competition like no other. It's wrong!
And I'm Candy. Get ready for an epic adventure in fashion.
This is Carnival Catwalk.
fashion has to fit. It's wearable art. His garment does not fit.
Remember, we don't want ordinary, we want extraordinary. This is Carnival Catwalk.
Well, you see what it is. You see when it's coming to CBC TV8, the 9th of January, that's this coming Thursday. And now let me show you the people behind it all. It's Rome is one of them, but then the most beautiful woman in the world, Miss Wendy Fitzwilliam, is with us as well. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
You know, Wendy, I must tell you, I'll start with you, because when I spoke to Jerome about trying to get this project onto TV8, I said to him, and what I love is that you have Wendy Fitzwilliam. I chose her to be Miss Universe. And so look at that smile. Isn't this the most beautiful smile? And I'm so excited about this series, because as we've been sharing the teaser with our audience, everyone can't wait to tune in on Tuesday. So Rome, I'll start with you a little bit about, tell us a little bit about this project and how important it is for the Caribbean.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pearson, and thanks for having us on the show this morning. We are super excited for this show because the way we came up with the concept for the show was as a result of a lack of seeing our Caribbean people on the international stage. And I felt as though we have so many talented Caribbean people, so many talented fashion designers, but entertainment on the whole, that we are so entertaining as a people that we need to put ourselves on an international stage. And I know that people know Trinidad and Tobago for Carnival and Barbados for Crop Over. And I was like, okay, let's see how we could fuse our Carnival on the international platform where we could get that appeal. And I felt as though fashion was the way that we could do it. So we reached out to Wendy. Wendy was on the project. She was eager. We reached out to Anya Youngchi, who won Project Runway, and they both were like, let's do this. And we spoke to Anya, who put us on to the producers of Project Runway, and they guided us as to how to format this entire thing. So we formatted it in a way where we combine the international team with our local team to create Carnival Catwalk. So once this airs on Thursday on the CBC network, it is going to air throughout the entire Caribbean, in Trinidad and Tobago, and on international platforms as well. It's going to put the Caribbean on the map, not only for fashion, but for our culture and as a people.
You know, Wendy, you are no stranger to these kinds of shows. It's reality shows. You've hosted the Caribbean Top Model series as well, and we love that. I'm looking forward to this as well. Now, based upon that experience, what do you think it could mean to the Caribbean audience to really be able to tune in to watch how our designers from around the world really tease us with the creativity?
So, you know, Rome said it best, and what I learned during my first experience doing this is how enthused we are about seeing ourselves in a glamorous, fabulous way presented by us. This is not someone else's interpretation of the Caribbean and our culture. This is us selling ourselves fabulously and glamorously. So if you notice, the projects that I tend to attach myself to are exactly that. Projects that celebrate our beauty, our fairs, the way we genuinely speak, the way we genuinely party and ramage, as we say here in Trinidad and Tobago. But in a way that's very internationally appealing, as we are indigenously, and if we don't present ourselves as such, the world will never see that side of us unless they visit. You know, it's very different when an outsider looks at you and how they would edit you and put you together, as opposed to the nuances that we know of our culture that make us special, that will translate internationally. Those little things, you know, the little twinkle in an eye, the little sway of a hip, which is interpreted in fashion too, let me tell you. You know, and you see it in the show. The differences between the way our designers may cut a garment as opposed to someone from another part of the world, their expressions. But of course, you know, with a show like this, the backstory is the story. So we're bringing a lot of that. Drama and bacchanal in the show to come to visit.
And we're excited about that. How did you go about determining, Jerome, the talent that you're going to be showcasing in terms of the designers? Because you had to scope the whole Caribbean and practically the world to find these folks.
Yeah. So what we did is, because we had that collaboration with the consulting producers from both Project Runway and Making the Cut, they gave us their casting directors to use as well. So the casting director team that we use was Vital Casting out of LA, and they usually cast for Project Runway, Making the Cut, for Legally Blonde, a lot of the international TV shows, and they send this out to a plethora of international designers, not only Carnival costume designers, but designers like high fashion designers. They send that out too, and then they also send it out throughout the Caribbean to find some of the best in terms of the Caribbean's Carnival costume designers and fashion designers. So that's how they did it. But not only finding just the top designers, but they had to find designers who also had great personalities, because it's reality TV at the end of the day.
That's right.
So they had to have great personalities to be entertaining, so that the show is not only about fashion, but it's fashion, Caribbean culture, and our entertaining people itself. And that's what are going to bring the difference between this show and the regular fashion show you would see on international TV.
And if I may, the casting team got it right.
Yeah.
Wow. We have talent from literally the entire planet. As far as Taiwan, Holland, Benin,
Africa, we had
of course the Caribbean, London, the USA. We were well represented.
Wendy, you said it well in terms of seeing ourselves, seeing our energy, and seeing our creativity all in one show. But the passion of these designers is not simply to design, but also to win. And there is a very attractive prize. Would you want to share what that is?
Yeah. So it's a cash prize of $100,000, as well as the bigger prize is really getting to showcase their talent at Milan Fashion Week. And not only showcasing at Milan Fashion Week, but you would see as the show unfolds is that we had Harper's Bazaar and Vogue Italia who featured the winner on their magazines. And those are two internationally renowned fashion magazines.
Now, Wendy, you've walked many catwalks. You understand the stage. I mean, we've seen your grace, and we continue to see your grace on stage. But translating the Caribbean designs onto international platforms as well, how do you see this show helping with getting more of our designers showcased across the world?
What an excellent question. And there truly is nothing impacts, I think, culture like television and media and TV now. And when I say TV, I don't only speak of terrestrial television, the traditional television, but online and online shows, the clips that you see of various productions that took place years ago, decades ago, still resonate. In another space I did 1,000 years ago now. When I was Miss Universe, I remember a television station, several of them came with me during my year to shoot Carnival in Trinidad. And there was one party that used to happen in my neighborhood, the original breakfast party. And I wanted to go to that party, and it was on nobody's schedule, of course. And so the only way I could go to that party is if I got one of the crews to agree to film me at that party. And I made it into a thing. I blindfolded them just because I wanted to fet with the people I grew up with in the Vale. And that became such a phenomenon. That particular episode of Wild On stayed on air for 25 years.
Wow. Wow.
25 years. And I have come across people all over the planet, as far away as Tanzania, who have seen that episode of, and their dream is to come to Trinidad to
go to that event. Yeah.
Many years later. And that's the beauty of something like Carnival Catwalk. These designers, even if you don't win the competition, the opportunity, if you are open to it, if you keep your eyes open and you say yes a lot, right? The opportunities that come your way are endless. And because it is, this format, it's an entertaining reality competition show that's made for as all content is now made for the online audience. It's, yes, an hour-long format, but we will have many fabulous clips that we expect will live forever because we do it like that. You know, we expect not only our winner, but many of the designers to continue to have tremendous opportunities coming out of this experience. I saw it, as I said, with that little, by the way, event that happened 27 years ago.
Wow,
I think it is now. Of course, I was a child prodigy. I won Universe when I was 12.
You see why I love this woman? You see why I just love this woman? Humor and intelligence all wrapped into one, and with her beauty to package it off is fantastic. But Rome, you too are an artist. You're well known. I know in reading about you as a parang king yourself, and your first song it's skyrocketed. But in terms of getting this project shopped across the television networks, because it's going to be shown in Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, where else?
So it's across all of the Caribbean islands. So through the cable network, they're going to broadcast it across all of the Caribbean islands. And then through Pavilion Plus, that's our online streaming platform, it will be broadcasted across the entire world itself. Right now, we are still in negotiations with some of the US streaming platforms. So what they're allowing us to do is to air it in the Caribbean region. And then we're going to have the launch in the US once we tie up all of that paperwork. So this is going to be an international show that the rest of the world is going to air, get to see it when it airs. And with that is going to have great opportunities for these designers, as Wendy was saying, because now people who would have seen you on a local front now going to see you on an international stage, and it's going to open up many, many doors for you.
And speaking of which, because when do you sit on a panel of judges who are themselves globally known? And can you break that down for me? Tell us who else sits on your judging panel. And please call Alison Hines' name.
Yeah. Well, you said it before I could enthusiastically. But of course, Alison is one of our judges, the one and only Alison Hines. We have a few other Carnival and soca queens. So Nyla is one of our judges. Wow. Destra is one of our judges. We also have persons in the fashion space like Mailing, whom I call the Caribbean's Coco Chanel. Timeless, very chic, always current, yet you can wear a piece you've acquired from Mailing, as I do. 30 years ago, child prodigy that I was, today. And then we have several people of Caribbean descent, well-known designers like Faye Noel, whose origin is Grenadian, has blown up in the US and around the world. She's dressed people like Beyonce and you name it.
And then LeBron James, and she designed for Nike as well.
Exactly, right? So these are people who know the intricacies of the business, who understand not just design, but how to build a business in this space. And then
Simon Hartman. She designed from the UK. She's from London, but she designed for Wakanda Forever.
Correct.
And for Black Panther.
Yeah, so we're not just fashion, but we're straddling everything in terms of the judging talent, the pool that we assembled for the first season. So how to create costumes for TV, for movies. You may think those things are similar, they're not.
Yes.
Yeah, so we run the gamut. And of course, the fabulous Peter Elias.
Yeah. Very entertaining.
So if you just joined us, folks, and you're watching TV and you're wondering, what are these two beautiful people talking about? We're talking about Carnival Catwalk, which premieres on TV8 on Thursday at 3 minutes after 8. Just a oomph behind you guys in Trinidad and Tobago. But it's almost syndicated across the Caribbean and synchronized in such a way that everyone across the region will get to see it around the same time. So, Rome, let's talk a little bit. There are 9 episodes. How did you go about breaking each episode down so that there's a new challenge, there's a different approach, so that you keep us piqued and interested, episode 1 to episode 9?
What we had to do, Pearson, is that people who know our carnival, so similar with Barbados, you all know crop over and people know the costumes. But what a lot of people don't know is the history behind Carnival and the different elements that make up our Carnival. So what we had to do was to split the Carnival into the different elements that make it up. and teach these international contestants and give them a taste of what Carnival is about while still teaching them the history of it. So we have all the different elements that would make up a carnival, things like the juve, things like the steel pan in terms of the musical instrument. We would have different challenges where we would have them doing resort wear, where we would have them doing frontline carnival costumes, where we would have the traditional carnival characters. So there are various different elements that we put in there. One, to give them the inspiration, but two, to teach them about our carnival. And not only to teach the contestants, but also to teach the international audience as to what our carnival is about. Because a lot of people think it's just bikini beads and jump and wave and wind down low in the road, when there's a great history behind it. I myself learned a lot on this show, being the host, because I had to explain things that I didn't really know too much of the depth of the history behind it. And in doing the research in order to teach these contestants and the audience, this is where we learned this. So it's going to be an amazing show where you will be fully entertained and educated as to what the carnival culture is about.
And so we can't wait for
I'm so bored. Forgive me, I always have to jump in. but you know, and during the run of the show, our designers also learn about many aspects of our culture outside of Carnival too.
Yes.
So, you know, we did, you will see one episode on the birds of Trinidad and Tobago. And truly, our beautiful Twin Island Republic becomes another character, almost as important as the designers are, our competitors are, and the judges are, and Rome and Candy, because we feature our birds. And that, I thought when I read, you know, that episode, the treatment for that, I was like, joyful birds, yippee-yay. Well, Pearson, it turned out to be one of the most beautiful design expressions. You should see what these designers created that week, you know, that they had to explore our jungle, basically, and experience, you know, the birds of the Republic. It is truly magical.
You've sold us on this. We can't wait to see it ourselves now. We cannot wait. A couple more sleeps, and it's time for Carnival Catwalk to premiere on CBC TV. 3 minutes after 8 o'clock on Thursday night, we have to be sitting before our television sets to watch Carnival Catwalk. Jerome will be hosting, Rome will be there, Wendy will be judging, and these wonderful smiles that you see on your TV set this morning, they will light up your television screens on Thursday night. Thank you so very much, both of you. I know you have other media engagements. Rome, you wanted to say something?
We now headed across here to do our local leg. So thanks for having us, Pearson.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Pearson.
You're welcome.
Barbados, get ready for Carnival Catwalk.
Well said. Thank you so much. Have a good day. All the best.
Hi, guys.
Rome, it's Rome and Wendy Fitzwilliam. They're part of that Carnival Catwalk setup. It's on Thursday night. Don't forget, Thursday night at 8:03. You have to tune into your TV, TV8, and it's going to be outstanding. You wouldn't want to miss a beat. We're coming back in just a moment.
This is Carnival Catwalk, where fashion meets carnival.
This was like a cacophony of color.
Look at people by the drum, look at people by the drum.
We have searched far and wide for 10 of the most fearless, creative fashion designers in the world.
And they're all here for one common goal, and that is to snatch the grand prize of $100,000 and to prove that they are the ultimate fashion maestro.
That's a project worth well over 9, you know.
Could you imagine this is the first time we've seen her sew for the day?
I love this projecting into the future.
The whole time I thought, he is coming back to Carnival for sure.
And you are about to witness a competition like no other. It's Rome!
And I'm Candy. Get ready for an epic adventure in fashion.
This is Carnival Catwalk.
Fashion has to fit. It's wearable art. His garment does not fit.
Remember, we don't want ordinary, we want extraordinary. This is Carnival Catwalk.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning.
From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.7 FM, the ultimate Bajan experience.
My friend, you don't plan to get it. Oh, Barbados. Hey, I'm KB Clean. Join me 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. right here at 94.7, the best and ultimate Bajan experience. My show is called Bajan to the Bone. Don't miss it, Bajan to the Bone. Weekdays right here and only here on 94.7.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. You know, it's a different feeling altogether.
I never feel so good in a party yet.
Follow me to Q in the Community this Thursday.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Well, we just finished talking to our friends from Trinidad who love a lot of Bacchanal. We're going to reach out and talk to a man from Barbados who also loves a lot of political Bacchanal himself, in Peter Wickham, who is our political analyst. Peter, good morning to you. Good to see you.
Morning, Pearson. I'm a guy that likes the traditional Bacchanal too, so I think that I'm the original Carnival baby. So in addition
Yes,
to the
you
politics, there's also that the last segment was actually quite interesting. So I look forward to the program as well.
Yeah, man. But it's good to have you. Now, there's a lot happening politically in the Caribbean and also internationally. One of the big shockers, I think, for a lot of people, even though he said it before, Dr. Keith Rowley from Trinidad and Tobago resigning. What did that mean to you when you heard that news?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it was supposed to have been a shock. And I mean, it was fascinating how the media said this thing was surprising. When Keith Rowley, he said it half a dozen times that this would be his last term and he wasn't planning to offer himself again. When he did the budget a few months ago, the final budget, he said this will be the last time I will present a budget. So my thing is, like, it was an open secret that he was going. I mean, he hinted, and he has finally decided to move on. I think I am probably more moved by the manner in which he did it and not the suddenness of it. Because I mean, January 2025, there's an election due this year. I think this is good timing in terms of giving his successor, who I now understand is Stuart Young, an opportunity to become prime minister initially and then determine when he wants to call the election. So there's a level of political maturity in it. And I like the fact that he is retiring. I also like the fact that he is retiring in a way that doesn't set up the PNM for defeat. So he's given the new leader a run. Basically, he has almost a full year to determine what he will do and how he will do it and to impress himself on the people. So I say well done on Keith Rowley. I'm not a critic. I am a person that advocates for leaders to come, see, conquer, and move on. He's doing just that. And it's interesting that he's only the second leader in the Caribbean that has ever done that. The first being P.J. Patterson. Most leaders have been beaten into submission.
Yes.
He now becomes the second leader who has said, I will go gracefully. Which was nothing like the way that he came in, because he came in with some turbulence on the back of Patrick Manning. And now he is essentially correcting that process. And essentially he's going out in a way that he didn't come in. And I think he's doing a service to his successor, Stuart Young. So well done on him.
What do we know of Stuart Young himself, though, that as Caribbean people we need to watch for?
Not a lot. I mean, he's been energy minister in the Trinidad and Tobago context. Energy minister is usually the key minister. He was very involved in making decisions in the management of COVID. Several people, myself included, weren't exactly thrilled with the way that he managed his affairs. Trinidad and Tobago was on full lockdown. I think you remember that they closed their borders, which was something odd. Closed their borders even to locals, even to citizens, which is rare. So I've often found him a bit high-handed, and I mean he's now running essentially masterminded the state of emergency. I think that's something that we need to watch. Well, they need to watch in Trinidad and Tobago, but there's a level of confidence that Prime Minister Rowley has in him, and I think that should say a lot. He's attorney at law, very well qualified. He's been steeped in politics for some time. Young person as well, so he can grow in the role. And I think he represents what they think is a good balance. Of course, in Trinidad, there's always this race factor. He does have a bit of enough of everything in him in terms racially to make him acceptable to several quarters, and the business community seems to like him as well.
I want to turn our attention now to Justin Trudeau, which again is another one of those surprise resignations, even though he was under a lot of political pressure in recent time. When he made that announcement, and he said it almost with a little bit of tears in his voice, you could hear the tremble in his voice. What does this now mean for Canada and with the upcoming elections?
Well, I mean, he's already a minority. The Liberals are a minority party. They did not have an absolute majority, and in a sense, he was governing by grace, one could argue. And I'm fascinated that he lasted as long as he did. You know, going in, he had a legacy that was really related to his father. But as an individual, his history in politics wasn't exactly long and distinguished. But he rose to prominence. I think he did a reasonably good job to get the Liberals back on their feet. And I think many felt it was time for him to move on, and he did continue, in the vineyard for longer. I think he called an election during COVID, which helped him considerably, and the situation now is falling apart. So he has to look to others to see if there can be guidance. He is also saying, that he is going to give the party an opportunity to see if they can identify a successor and move on. I think that he has bunged the hand of his successor more than Keith Rowley has. I do feel that he could have exited gracefully a little earlier and given his successor an opportunity. But he had to determine the time and the place, and he's decided that no. But he's been under a lot of pressure, as you quite rightly said. I don't believe that policy in Canada will change radically. If the Conservatives, and I think the Conservatives are well placed to take over, they will probably be less inclined to go towards taxation, more friendly to business, that type of thing. But like main immigrant policies and things of that nature, I don't see them to be a problem. The concern I think a lot of people have is they need someone in Canada who can stand up to Donald Trump. And the presumption is that the Conservative leader can do that far better than Justin Trudeau could. So we have to see how that works out.
You walked right over the border to where he wanted to go next, because just yesterday, Donald Trump, his votes were confirmed in the House there, and so now he is certified as the next U.S. president. But the relationship between Canada and the U.S. has not been stellar in recent time. How do you see it now portending that Donald Trump is back in the White House, and how does that also portend for the Caribbean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Trump presidency is going to be a mess. I think it's going to be a mess in the same way that the previous one was a mess. And not only for the Caribbean, but for the entire world. And, Trump is going to upend climate agreements, which will impact on us. Look, I've taken a position that the Americans have made the decision in their own best interest. And the rest of us just have to see how we can manage our own affairs during the next 4 years. But it's going to be messy, and I think it has already started. Some of our brothers and sisters who live in the U.S. illegally may find themselves being deported. That may very well be one of the first things that we notice in terms of an impact. But the whole idea of tariffs and the imposition of tariffs, which will increase the cost of living significantly, that's going to impact on the poor sections of the American community. And then the general attitude towards trade and cooperation. You remember Trump pulled out of UNESCO. There's a level of disregard for heritage and culture and whatnot, and prioritization of business. My sense is that his moral barometer in relation to those things is all over the place. So I wish you well, and I am not one of those analysts who's getting into these heavy predictions on what it will be. I think it will be bad, quite frankly. And I think that we just have to wait to see how bad it is and how best we in the Caribbean can cope in the context of what's going on.
I want to bring our focus back to the Caribbean for just a moment, because election season, as they call it, is almost upon the region. What's the first Caribbean state do you think will be calling elections in 2025-26?
Well, we already had an election called in Antigua and Barbuda. That would be by election that was called to replace an MP that was killed. That's coming off on the 14th of January. There are rumors that we may have a by-election in Barbados too. I don't know how that's going to work out or whether that will work out at all. So that could very well come in as number 2. You have elections that are due in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in Guyana. Suriname is going to go to the polls as well. Belize is going to the polls. There's a lot of activity that we anticipate this year, and it's difficult to say who, because I think in terms of when elections are due, it's probably the latter part of the year. Trinidad and Tobago is also in that group. It's the latter part of the year that these elections will fall due. But it is entirely possible that a leader or leaders may want to bring up that date. My feeling is that the Guyana election would probably make sense for it to be called early. It's harder in Guyana to do that because of the way that the system is structured, but my sense is that they would be right for an early election. Jamaica is also slated to have an election this year. The number of elections, 8 in total, is similar to what happened during COVID. The difference is that during COVID, elections were called early because they weren't due, but they were brought up to that. In 2025, we have a situation where elections are due. So if leaders do call them, it will be early by 2 or 3 months, but not early by 2 or 3 years, as was the case during COVID. But it's going to be a whole lot of electoral activity in the Caribbean that we'll be seeing in 2025. I am already spending more time in the gym trying to keep myself physical shape to be able to run alongside these politicians as they are progressive during the course of the year. But it's going to be a lot of electoral activity for sure.
You spoke of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. One of those staying in the race who's been in politics for, it feels like my whole lifetime, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez. And he has not yet signaled fatigue. What do you think his chances are coming up?
Quite the opposite. He indicated that he's running again. And I say it's a political miracle. Interestingly enough, Ralph Gonzalez was my first client when I started work in 1998 outside of Barbados, and I have supported his efforts during the course of his time in politics for a long time. The reality, however, is that if you look at the theory of politics, there is no good reason why he should have been able to win the last election. Because, and I'm not speaking to polling here, I'm speaking about the broad political theory that no government in the region has ever lasted that long under a single person. You've never had a 5-term prime minister, 5 consecutive terms. That was uncharted territory. And my sense is that he could say that he is there by the grace of God, quite frankly. Not that I'm a believer, but you get the point.
I get it.
Six love, 6, what he calls hitting them for 6 is now the phrase this time. Last time he was a 5-star general. Yes. The likelihood of him hitting them for 6 is also, I think, it's entirely dependent on how the opposition shapes up. And my theory is that you get 2 elections. Generally, most leaders will get 2 terms. After that, if you continue on, it usually has a lot to do with the fact that the opposition is a disaster. And the opposition in St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been a phenomenal disaster for a long time. They've changed leaders under Friday. He lost. Yes. There's a suggestion now that there will be a new leader. And I think that is really what we have to look to see how that gentleman shapes up against Prime Minister Gonzalez.
Right. Peter, I've got to leave it there. Your phone is buzzing as well, because he's going to be continuing on Let's Talk About It this morning, correct, at 10 o'clock? At 9 o'clock?
That's right. That's 9 o'clock. Well, you're pushing me so late to 9 o'clock.
I really apologize.
100.7.
There you go. So you could contact Peter and talk some more politics and a whole lot more. Thank you so much, Peter, for sharing in and weighing in on
Okay,
these
good chatting
usual-
with you, person.
You too. Thank you so much. Sitting by his window with shutters. I love it. We're coming right back in a moment. Oh, they tell me to wrap up. So no problem. I hope you had a good morning. I thoroughly did. It's been a little while sitting in the chair facing you. I look forward, if it be God's will, to be with you again tomorrow morning. Our little crew says thanks to all of you. We are coming back tomorrow. Take care. Have a great today.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.